I'm rolling with FD.
I'm going to drop a couple bombs on the FD channel right now.
Who are you rolling with?
I am rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
Let's do it. Let's go.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
We are rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
Oh, you know we rolling with FD, baby.
We got alphas and brothers in the house.
That's right.
Peace out, my brother.
Woo!
I'm rolling with the F, the D.
Learn something new every day when you're rolling with FD.
Yeah, we are rolling with FD, baby.
I roll with one person, and that's FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
You gotta love it, man.
This is a family thing.
That's good. That's good, man.
Hey, Renee, who you rolling with?
Rolling with FD.
Rolling with FD.
You don't have to ask. I'm rolling with FD.
My man. But see, Bless, who are you rolling with?
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
That's how you just rolling, right? That's the whole thing, right? You roll with it.
You gotta let me know who you rolling with.
We're rolling with FD. You heard it first.
I'm rolling with FD.
I am rolling with FD.
I'm not just a pretty face, baby. JD, we should both do it.
No, I'm not doing that.
What questions do you have for me? Right, Manny and Jeremy, who you rolling with?
We're rolling with FD. We don't want to get our asses kicked.
You gotta let the people know who you're rolling with, man.
Well, obviously I'm rolling with FD.
What's up, everybody? October 16th. I'm very happy to have our guest tonight. It's going to be a great conversation about the hobby in totality. I want to welcome Dan, the Card Man, to What's the Play. What's up, Dan?
How's it going? I'm good. How you going?
I'm good, brother. I am good. Let's jump right in, man. I want to learn more about you personally. And my first question is, how did you get introduced to the hobby?
Good question. I've been a collector my whole life. So as a kid, it was collecting footy cards. So rugby league is very big here where I'm from. It was mainly those basketball cards too. As a kid, my mum used to work at a news agency, so she used to bring me home, a pack of card every couple of days, which was nice to have as a kid, especially growing up not so fortunate. So that was good fun. But mainly that was my entryway. That and Pokemon cards, I'd say.
You play any sports? You play any sports growing up?
I played a lot of rugby. And soccer too, but I had a growth spurt really late. So where I'm from, there's a lot of Polynesian kids, and they were a lot bigger than me at the time, so I had to stop playing. But yeah, that's what I played growing up.
Oh, well, how tall are you now, Dan? What are your stats?
I think I'm 175 centimeters, whatever that is in your measurements. I think I'm like 5'8" or 9. I'm short. I'm a short ass. Yeah.
You know what's funny is that when I got through playing, I played football in college, and when I got through playing, we had a club rugby team that, man, they recruited me on for a strong year. Like, hey, do you want to play rugby? And I came and checked out a few games and saw no helmet and no mouthpiece. And I was like, nah, I'm good. What if I get a knee injury? I think I'm good. But it's a real sport, man. That's
yeah, it's fun. It's fun to play. I think the counterpoint to that is, I watch like NFL, and that scares me because guys have got pads on helmets. That gives them a bit more protection, so they almost throw themselves at each other a lot harder. So, yeah.
Watching football now, like the Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys are on, I thought differently when I played than I do now watching. Like, you're young, you're kind of probably immature on some things of life. I felt like I could never be hurt playing ball. No matter what happened. I had some, like my tackle by me and some other people had knee scopes and things like that. I never had anything. But now I watch and I think about all of the things that could happen. Like when my children are involved, I don't even know if I want to play the sport. I think about everything in totality now.
My wife and I are having that chat now. So my daughter, she's almost 2 years old, and I want her to play. I want her to play rugby growing up. But my wife doesn't want that because she's too scared, especially with all this concussion talk these days and all that sort of thing. So it's a different thing when you're a parent as well.
Well, my mom was the same way. She didn't want me to play. And Dan, when I was a freshman in high school, I was 6'1", 257 pounds, and I was pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And my father told me, if you go look in a mirror and you don't want to play football, you don't see a football player, they don't do it. But if you do decide to go forward, there is no quitting. There's no looking back. You got to get this thing done. Do it to the best of your ability. And then I started playing. So tell me now, what do you collect? I know we talked about what are some of your favorite cards that you have in your collection?
This you can't see it on screen right now, but I've got some flawless soccer cards that I did a video on a few days ago that I really like. Just because they're all on card autos, it's all match worn stuff. That's really hard to find for soccer specifically. I'm Italian by heritage. Where I'm from in Southwest Sydney, it's a big part of our culture. You know, a lot of people immigrated to this region after World War II, so soccer was sort of what people had to keep themselves feeling like, you know, they're not aliens, I guess, in this new country they were in. So that's why the sport is so big around here. So I collect that, you know, because it's in my DNA. But I also chase things like I'm big in Dragon Ball Z as well. So I grew up watching the show. But I sort of collect anything, to be honest, right? It's mainly, you know, very targeted though. I'm not a huge set chaser for a lot of things. I am for the stuff that I do like, but it's mainly things like on-card autos, match-worn stuff, Hall of Famers. That's stuff that interests me as a sports fan.
Rare stuff. What's the story with that ASIC signed piece behind you? Multiple times.
That's well, I need to fix it, right? Because that thing has been falling over for ages. But that's a Parramatta Eels jersey. So they're my rugby team. So that's a jersey I think from '99. And yeah, I've had it basically since then.
Nice piece, man. I get into autographs. Very nice piece. What inspired you to make content?
Well, it's been on my list of things to do for a long time. I didn't start doing it until I think 2021, and that's because Sydney got chucked into another lockdown. I had nothing better to do. Right, we were stuck in a house, couldn't do much, and I just saw some things happening within the hobby that I wanted to give a voice to. I wanted to comment on. I've talked in some of my videos that I am an external auditor by trade, so my whole life is revolved around, you know, risk appetite and issues and all that kind of thing. So I was sort of seeing these trends happening and not many people talking about it. So I thought, okay, maybe I can add, you know, some context to this situation or give people some insight, and that's the main reason.
Okay, very, very cool. How do you want people to see you overall? Is that something that even concerns you? Sometimes I think about it, sometimes I don't. What do you think?
Yeah, like I think I try and keep it out of sight, out of mind. I'm pretty good in life with stuff like that. So I'll make a video and then sort of forget about it. But it's not nice to read hurtful comments. I'm a bit lucky that I don't have a whole lot of stuff like that come my way. People do say, you know, I'm super negative and things like that. But, you know, the purpose behind my videos is to try and educate, and I try not to hate on people too much. I try and stay as balanced as I can. And I think for the most part, that's probably why I don't get too much hate in my comments and all that sort of stuff. So again, try and keep it out of sight, out of mind. But I think it's just part of the territory.
Well, you say some people think you're negative. It could be said that some people think all influencers at some point in time are negative. Are there any influencers that make content that you really like?
I think I watch like a lot of everyone, to be honest. You know, I like Card Collector 2 and his approach to videos. I think he does a lot of really good stuff. I know a lot of people dislike the guy, but he seems really wholesome, at least from what I've seen in my videos. He's really nice to kids, which is a fantastic thing to see within this space, right? He's always giving people good deals and doing trade nights and all that sort of stuff. So he's somebody that I watch a lot. But I sort of like, I absorb sort of everyone, right? I watch everything, even the people that I maybe don't necessarily like a whole lot. But it is what it is, yeah.
Do you go to car shows in your area? If so, what are they like?
Yeah, there's a few. So we have, you know, 2 or 3 a year here in Sydney. There's not too many, which is unfortunate, but I do go to them. The thing with Aussie collectors that I've talked to a few times before is that we're really big on set collecting. We're really big collectors, but we don't really sell too much. And when we do try and sell, it's for a high price. So I'd say, like, if you want to understand what cards are like in Australia, you probably compare it to what maybe the hobby was like in the States before the boom happened, where you've basically got the people that are in it are collectors their whole life. They're set collectors. They're sort of chasing everything and everything. You don't really have that flipper mentality just here yet either. Yeah.
Okay. We got Big John here saying good evening. Big John's a regular here. Thank you for your support, sir. Brendan saying good evening, FD and the legendary Dan the Card Man. We got a league of their own. Happy to be here. And Big John says, hey, Adrian, how you doing? So as we talk more about content, do you like when you look at, because I think about this sometimes, so when you look at card show stuff, or you look at like some stuff that Carletta may put out about analytics, or Jeff may put out about analytics, is there any particular form of content that kind of becomes more of your, if I want to sit down and watch something, this is probably what I watch?
Yeah, I think so. I consume everything. So I like the analytical videos as well. I'm a data analyst as well as part of my day job. So that stuff does really interest me. But I'd say maybe the card show vlogs. I know they cop a lot of heat from people, but that's probably the stuff I like the most because, here in Australia, like I just mentioned, we don't have too many shows. So this is sort of my way to sort of like live through people, right? And see exactly. And see what happens out there. And that's the most fun that I have, to be honest, watching stuff.
How do you navigate through controversy to be fair to both sides in a particular situation, whatever it may be?
Like, I just try and give a balanced viewpoint. Yeah, okay. Like I try and stick to the facts. I do give my own opinion on things, but I make sure that I'm giving an opinion and I'm not, not lying to people, but I'm not just beating on somebody for the sake of beating on them, right? I want to give them a fair chance. So as an example, I put out a video today that I thought was pretty balanced, but some people disagreed, and that's part of the process as well. But it's more so just stick to the facts, give my thoughts on the situation, but make sure that the viewer themselves are the ones that can make up their own mind. Now, that doesn't always go to plan, but again, it is what it is.
What's your take on everything that went down with chasing cardboard? Getting the rock card, one source saying, just from a visual picture, don't think that thing is real, end up sending it to PSA, that's 100% legit.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. So I did a couple of videos on that. And I think the most disappointing thing was just how they handled it, to be honest. Like, I know they probably felt, vindicated in the end, and they probably felt they did everything the right way. Maybe they were trying to, backtrack a little bit with some of the things they said, but I just think they could have maybe handled it better with their first reaction. And then it was almost like they were chasing their tail after that.
What was their first reaction? What do you think they could have handled better? I don't remember.
I think their first reaction was that they, immediately relisted the card after having pressure put on them, and they basically then said they didn't do anything wrong with that, but they had doubts about it. So the logic was, well, if you had doubts, why did you relist it? Now, again, it could have been a simple mistake, accidentally relisting the card, and they've since, said that, but it was just sort of like the doubling down, which is, I can understand because they had a lot of hate come towards them, right? So people panic. Yeah, so people panic and all that sort of stuff. So you can understand why that happens, right? But again, I think that was disappointing to see as a fan of their channel. But nobody died, right? At the end of the day, it's just a piece of cardboard. So it is what it is.
I remember we were sitting here and we're watching, I think, one of the first episodes on this topic, and I really get into autographs now. And I remember some stuff came up on Lionel Messi about a year ago, talking about some cards could have been fake. They came out to be real. But I remember looking at that rock card, and I'm sitting here, and I rewound it a few times, and I'm sitting here looking at it. And then we started talking here in the household about it. And I was sitting there like, I've seen that autograph before. I've seen that rock autograph before. Like, and I said it even at the time, like, man, I think that thing is real. I wonder if they'll send it in and find out. And then when I think BGS, so one grading company, came back saying, with a visual test of a picture, that it looked fake, I was actually shocked.
Yeah.
And then when it came back real, I felt like, I think maybe, I can't speak for them, but some content creators may think same thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that autograph before. I think this thing is real. And I'm going to proceed down this road that I was already on. And so I don't know. I thought the whole thing was just kind of interesting to see how it went down. Wait, I want to ask you a quick question too. Just about a particular like AIH. I know you watch AIH and stuff, right? Y'all communicate. What do you think of his content?
I like it. He's quirky with his approach to things, and I think that rubs people the wrong way sometimes. They think he's sort of, I think the way I put it the other day, because I actually had this conversation with someone, that they think he's like just sitting there throwing darts randomly and seeing what sticks, or mud and seeing what sticks, but he's very calculated, right? He thinks through things, and I think he's on the money a lot more than when he's not. And I think people like to, crap on him a little bit, which I think is unfair. I watch his stuff all the time, so I should have mentioned that when I mentioned people that I do watch, because I do watch it, every time he drops a video, and I speak to him, on an almost daily basis. So I love his approach to things, to be honest. I know people don't like it, but again, that's life, right? You don't have to like everything that somebody does.
I like Raul as well. I've had him on a few times. I like how, and I think what's unappreciated, like you talked about your background and being analytical, really by nature and profession, so is AIH.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how he and I connected so quickly, because he mentioned that he was an accountant as well. So he's a more traditional accountant. I'm an auditor, but basically cut from the same cloth. So we connected really well off the back of that because we're both, nerds. There's an old saying, right? The only friend that an accountant has is another accountant. So I think that's why we get along so well, to be honest.
I can definitely say that. But man, everybody in this hobby is a nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all embracing that. We're all running
Yep.
to that. Even I play sports, you play sports. It doesn't matter if you play sports or not.
Exactly.
That's who we are. Jeff Wilson is opening a card shop in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I like it. I sort of said that in my video. I know a lot of people don't like it, but one of the things that I've pushed for and called for over the last few years is like disruption and innovation. And, I really like some of the things he's mentioned. Now, whether that actually works in reality or not, who knows? I know he has people that don't like him, right? A lot of people don't like him, but I think this thing could be really cool for what it does to the hobby. I just hope, the one concern I have is like fanatics maybe seeing this as the new norm and maybe trying to get rid of older style card stores and things like that, which I don't want to see. But, the live shopping experience I think is awesome, right? Him basically saying you can shop in that store 24/7 is really interesting being here in Australia, right? It's really interesting, for the European and Asian card markets as well, because they're very big. There's guys there that want to spend a lot of money and they don't have, the avenues locally to do that. So if, it works the way he's sort of saying, and it's not just going to be you buying on Whatnot or Fanatics Live or something like that, it's actually going to be a proper shopping experience where they can take you around the store at night. I think that's awesome.
Why do you think some people don't like Jeff?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I know a lot of people don't like the whole selling of pick things that he did when he first started, all the subscription services, or him basically being on a platform, and seeing, I think a lot of it comes down to him just being a rich white guy, to be honest, because they see him as sort of ignorant and they're getting to buy, or he's getting to buy all the things they can't, and they don't like that. But again, I think Jeff, he's done a few interviews and talked to this, like, he's clearly made some mistakes along the way and he's learned from them, right? And I think he deserves some credit for that. And I've talked to that before as well. People give him crap. They give other people crap that call them pump and dumpers and all this sort of stuff. But this guy is still around. He's still making content probably better than anyone, in terms of production quality and all that sort of stuff. And now he's investing via a card store. Like, yeah, you can hate the guy for things that you don't like about him, but that stuff deserves some credit, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that. I've always asked myself, why do people hate Jeff so much? It may go to the facts that you talked about as far as him being rich and being Caucasian. I don't know. But I can tell you from talking to him, and I've talked to a few people that are entrepreneurs and how their minds work, that's who Jeff is. He's an entrepreneur, and he's looking for ways to challenge himself, I think, in this space. Because if you really could ask yourself a question, like, Jeff doesn't need to open a card store.
Exactly.
But I think he wants to give something to the community as also being an owner of a space in the community. And now I know some of the two co-owners, like one came to Burbank Card Show #1, and I made a deal with him. And cordial guy, good to talk to. People know him well in the hobby. He's a good resource. I imagine the other gentleman is as well. So he's not setting this up in a situation where it's like no one is in there that really is touching base with the hobby and has connections within the hobby or making moves within the hobby. And if you watch his videos as he's going around the space, really every question, when I clicked on the first video, every question I had, I got answered.
Yep.
What's breaking going to be like in that space? Where's his new studio going to be at? Oh, it's going to be there. Can I go there and watch a game? Yep, I can go do that. Can I go there and break some cards myself? Yep, there's tables to do that. Is there a showroom where I can go buy cards? Yep, that showroom is also going to be linked to whatever website they have, or if they're selling on eBay or anything like that, it's going to be there. And then he talked about challenging himself to be in touch with technology and using technology within that space. Like, that's every question that I had when I first watched. So
Exactly.
I wish it was. I would like to go visit it one day and see what it looks like.
Yeah, so would I, to be honest, because I think that's the most exciting piece about it, is that he's basically gone big or go home, that kind of mentality, right? Where it's not just the card store, it's a card store that has all these other pieces within it, right? It's the live breaking and having that stadium seating and all that sort of stuff that some people can say, okay, well, why are you doing that? Who cares? But, it's cool that he's sort of trying to challenge the status quo, trying to disrupt the industry, try and be basically an innovator, which is something that this, hobby, this industry desperately needs. We're stuck in such a old school mindset with a lot of things that happen that something like this is really good.
True. Machado Sports says, Dan, the man, what's up, mate? That people are happy to see you here. Feed the gods. Good evening, everyone. Brendan says, it's a thankless job, but I'm glad Dan and Raul do what they do. I would agree with that. I mean, you bring good information out and talk about it and break it down and give people a resource for good information. Machado says, again, we got a hobby genius on here, man.
Yeah, he's referring to you, not me.
No, he's talking about you, bro. Another question here. Are Australians pumped for Volkanovski fighting?
Volkanovski, yeah. Yes, he's fighting for the light heavyweight title in the UFC against Islam this weekend. So I'm very, very excited about that. He basically took this fight. I'm not sure how closely you follow UFC, but he took this fight on basically 8 days' notice or whatever it is. So
must be a guy that stays in shape, huh?
Yeah, he's not too far from me either. He's based a bit further south. But he's like, it's really cool to watch him talk and all that sort of stuff because he represents people from my area, right? Okay. He's essentially European, first generation Australian, essentially. So it's sort of good to see somebody like that on the global stage and doing well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Machado here talks about the evolution of the hobby. Why do you think so many people, because a lot of times I talk to people in person at shows or just people in the hobby, I may be on the telephone with someone, and a lot of people they don't take well to change. Now, we know a lot of people don't take well to change in general life, but with all the technology that is involved in at people's fingertips, why do you think the hobby is so adverse to changes overall?
Look, I'm not sure. Like, I think maybe a lot of it is driven by fear around how easy it is to maybe now take advantage of people through some of these, new introductions of technology and all that sort of stuff. But I think people are also concerned about, especially with fanatics with their new licensing and all that sort of stuff, like changing what they've known their whole life, right? And change doesn't always mean bad things, but I guess they're concerned about the hobby basically being structured around things that we've seen in recent years as opposed to what it was fundamentally about before the boom, right? Which is being a fan of sports, collecting things that you like, right? Getting something that can tie you to that player, to that team, to take your, nerdiness of watching that team to the next level. So I think a lot of them, maybe it's probably fear of the unknown too, right? I just rattled off a few things there, but I think it's a bit of everything.
Maybe I think different. Like I try to think about, I know change is coming. So how is it going to come? Even when we talk about content, we talk about breaking, we haven't gotten to that yet. But whatever it may be, the economy will evolve in the space. The market will evolve, let me say. And how one moves within that space I anticipate that. I think that's a lot of people don't. I remember the hobby when I was 15, 16 years old. There are some parts of the hobby that are the exact same way right now. Yeah. You walk into a show, it's set up the same way. And if you talk to somebody about, you walk up to some people's tables and you talk to them about comps. They won't talk about comps. Yeah. They want to let you know what they priced the card at. That could be way out of bounds. Okay? But I always say there's no other purchase that we make, house, car, anything, even groceries, man. I'm understanding what's a gallon of milk here, some eggs here, compared to down the street. Like, I'm comping.
Yep. Yeah, I think people are just scared of change, to be honest. And to maybe give more to that point, like one of the things I talk about all the time is, sort of what happens with the hobby, what happens with people scamming, what happens with these businesses making mistakes. It doesn't really, matter to me because I approach my collecting a certain way, right? So it's not going to impact me. I know what I like to buy. I know how I go about buying it. So that sort of means that I'm going to be comfortable. It's more so the people that are maybe over leveraging themselves and things like that are going to get exposed and all that sort of stuff. But, if you focus on you for the most part and you know what you like to buy and sell and all that sort of thing, you're going to be fine regardless, right?
What do you think of the pumping and dumping that's going on out here?
Oh, it's definitely happening. I don't know if it happens as much these days as it did in the past. There's a few people that I won't name names now, but there's a few people that have clearly done it, and I think it's unacceptable, and it's just wild to me how people can't see it, right? And like I don't know how much of it was intentional, but a lot of guys as well that I've talked to before that were younger, maybe by nature, or got given a platform, all of a sudden they've got 10, 20, 30,000 plus people watching them in these videos, and they're saying things and they're not understanding the impacts of their words on their audience and all that sort of stuff. Next minute, people are, following what they're saying, they're buying cards on credit cards and all that sort of stuff. It basically spirals. And I think it just comes down to people either doing it intentionally or people not knowing, the impact or the level of influence, I should say, that they have.
And I think with me, I've always I feel like I got to take responsibility for what I buy. I got to put the research in. I think that comes from how I started in the hobby. So I always think about if I buy something that goes up, if I buy something that goes down, it's based upon my understanding of what I purchased.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever looked at someone and said, "Oh, person X is buying this athlete. Let me go buy that."
Yeah. Yeah, which but unfortunately some people have done that, and I've not done that. And one of the things that I do as well is the purchases that I make are paid for only via profits of sales from other cards, because I have a hard time dealing with cards being worth the money that they are. I grew up quite poor, so for me, owning a piece of a card that's worth $1,000 as an example doesn't sit well with me. So in my mind, being able to fund it, with profits, it takes me a longer time to collect and buy things, but if stuff ever hits the fan, I need to sell things, I can sell it, for a loss because I've already made, the money back. And, like I said a bit earlier, I've got a young daughter. So again, if I ever needed the money quickly, the cards are going to be one of the first things to go, right? Family's more important. And that's just how I sort of approach my buying and selling.
That's it. SP123 says, is there a big Sam Kerr collector base in Australia?
Yeah, her cards sell for crazy. So she plays for Chelsea in the Women's Premier League over in England. She's probably Australia's greatest ever female player for soccer. So she is, a genuine superstar, and her card prices are mental here. Like I said a bit earlier, Aussies are set collectors, and they pay big money for things that maybe other people wouldn't. So, and that's one of them.
Well, when you think about Fanatics and how they're going to affect the market going forward, what are your thoughts?
I think when they first, made their announcement that they were coming in, I was excited because it goes back to what I said earlier about, disruption and innovation. But I think the things that I've seen maybe over the last 12 months have made me a little bit uneasy, to be honest, because I think they've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm concerned about what that's going to mean long term, right? Like if they've, in 2025, when they take over the NBA license and they essentially have everything, what is the hobby going to look like? Over the next 20 years, because I think their license is like 20 years or something ridiculous like that. So there's no competition, there's no challenge. What are they going to give us? And I think what we've seen recently is not filling me with a whole lot of confidence. Like I like the fact
What are some of the missteps? What are some of the missteps you think?
Well, I think you look at the duplicate baseball cards that happened recently for Superfractors. They've had missing. It's mainly happened with baseball. I think it was 2022 Topps Chrome. They had the missing short prints and super short print rookies being included. They ended up replacing those. I think a big one this year was 2023 Topps Chrome and maybe even Bowman Chrome that had the missing cards. They got backdoored. I did a few videos on those, and they basically didn't give any comment on that whatsoever. And cards were being sold on the secondary market 6 months before either product got released, and they had fake autos put on them as well. And this wasn't, a small number of cards. This was basically certain players' whole parallel runs, and these don't even look like they were put into the product either in the end. So there's just stuff like that. So it's just like little things. Now I understand, they're basically being taken over and all that sort of stuff. But, you'd like to think that the people working at Topps are still the same people, right? So just little things like that. Again, it's no different to Panini, right? We're used to it, but people just shouldn't be thinking that things are going to get immediately better overnight, I think is where my brain is going.
What are some of the things you think that Panini just missed the boat on?
I think redemptions is a big one. I think they've annoyed a lot of people with those. I did a video a few months ago which highlights the hypocrisy of the redemption process, right? So I think it was Immaculate or Impeccable 2022, a soccer product. There was a Cristiano Ronaldo auto in there. That was a redemption. And that redemption doesn't expire until 2024. But what sort of happened over the last few months is that those redemptions or those cards are being handed out as replacements for people of other cards. So basically, you could go out and buy a box of this Impeccable and hit a Ronaldo redemption, and you send that in. There's a chance you're not even going to get it because they've already handed it out to somebody else as a replacement. That's the stuff that they've sort of dropped the ball on, right? QC issues, they're going to happen regardless. But things like that really annoy me because it's such an easy fix. And that's why when they want to complain about Topps and Fanatics coming in, it's like, well, you've only got yourself to blame for the most part. But other stuff as well when it comes to, no longer really using game use patches and all that sort of stuff, that really annoys me.
I always wonder how many people at these companies are really immersed in the hobby.
Yeah,
because
I don't
there's
think a whole
some
lot
things
these
that
days.
go on that it's like they're 20 feet away from what any collector, investor, flipper, anybody that's walking around talking about cars, what they're thinking something
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah, or how much they care, because they're making money hand over fist, right? They've basically been an ATM machine over the last couple of years. So it's weird. I sort of think they've got what's coming to them, right? But again, we need to be careful because basically we could be seeing more of the same from Fanatics and Tops. They're doing some really cool stuff, Fanatics, with those hobby rip nights or whatever they refer to it as, and some of that stuff. Like, I think they're doing really cool things like that. That's the stuff I'm excited for. It's not these mistakes. And at least, in the case of, to backtrack to the duplicate 1-of-1 situation, they come out and made a statement very quickly. I just wish they'd do the same for these backdoored cards and some of these other issues.
Yeah, well, at least I'm hoping that the more Fanatics is involved, the more you'll see that. If there is something, you'll see a quick response to the community about what's going to be done proactively instead of reactively. Do you grade cards? And if you do, who are you grading with?
I do. I haven't done it for some time. I don't really have a preference, to be honest. Part of the reason why I'm not sending anything now is because I think it's still too overpriced. I think it's still too expensive. I would say if I was to grade something now, it would be PSA purely for the resale value. But if I'm buying something, I think the preference actually would go towards something like a BGS, just because of how undervalued those cards are. I think people are silly. They've lost the sight of what grading is all about, and people focusing on the label too much as opposed to the card itself. And I've talked this before. There's definitely arbitrage opportunities there with BGS and stuff like that.
Well, I always say 20 years ago when I first got, I guess, kind of word of grading personally and paying attention to it, BGS slabs are worth more than PSA slabs.
Yep. And I think that was still true up until like 2018, 2019, I want to say.
Right before COVID hit,
Yeah.
Which is interesting how that
interesting,
totally switched. And that's why you see so many Jordans and stuff from back in the day and the BGS 9.5.
Yep.
Because nobody was grading that stuff for PSA.
Yep. And that's why people need to be careful, right? Like, if you're putting all your eggs in the PSA basket, who's to say it's going to switch overnight again back to BGS or to CGC or to SGC, right? People are sleeping on CGC, but they've got a lot of money behind them from the comic book space, right? They're not a small fry company.
They also grade coins. They do it all. Yeah.
Yep. So this is weird how people place that emphasis on one company over another. It's just it never made sense to me.
Machado has a question here. What can we do, if anything at all, to better this hobby? And this is on my list as well. And what needs to stop in the hobby for the better?
In terms of like what could be done to better the hobby, I think it's more like calling out things when you see it, right? Not being afraid to speak up, but maybe on the flip side, being more supportive of new collectors and stuff like that. One of the issues that I've seen as well, being in the hobby my whole life, is people are really mean to new collectors and stuff like that. You see it all the time on the Facebook groups where people ask basic questions and you're like, you guys are idiots, what are you talking about? It's more like just be nice to others and they'll be nice back to you, right? But I think like speaking up when you see crap happening, I think is the big one. I had somebody in a video the other day say, Daniel, you talk about the small stuff, too often. Who cares about all these small scams? You need to focus in on the big ones. But in my mind, all the little stuff aggregates, right? You need to call all this little crap out to make people aware, so then the hobby can be better. And I think in terms of what needs to stop within the hobby, like repacks is a big pet peeve of mine. Like, I want to stop seeing repacks being sold without a checklist. That's my hope for the hobby.
Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I see repacks. I have no aspiration to purchase a repack.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'll buy one every now and then, like as fun at a card show or something. If I'm like really bored, I've got money to spend, I'm a degenerate gambler, so that'd be fun. But for the most part, I don't see the appeal to them. And then when you see people paying $1,000 for a repack and they have no idea what checklist it is, it's like crazy to me. You may as well just throw your money out the window. Just mail it to me.
I think it's just as easy as a rush of the unknown.
Yep.
Let me open this. Just like a box. Like I tell people all the time, I haven't opened a box of cards. We have fun around here, like with my children, but I haven't opened a box of cards. Let me see what I'm about to get. Let me see what I hit in like over 20 years.
Yep. I for that reason as well, I've not bought a whole lot of sealed product in recent months either. It's just too expensive these days. And again, you generally you got better odds of throwing your money out the window and hoping you're going to catch something that way.
But I know I'm different though. I can go to Vegas and I'm just in Vegas. Like I'm not there to gamble. It's like a mini vacation for me. So I know I'm different in that way.
Yeah.
Somebody else may be looking for something completely different or a little bit of a rush or get some of that dopamine running around. But that's not me. Brendan says, I've noticed certain labels being weaponized in the hobby. Watchdogs, for example, don't want to be identified as such, and quote unquote influencers have a negative connotation. It's an interesting time. What do you think about people yelling out the words watchdogs?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the term. I don't refer to myself as one. I sort of take the piss out of myself a little bit. If you look at my Instagram, I call myself a hobby pelican. That was mainly teasing card porn as well, because they refer to themselves as a hobby watchdog. I don't like that word. I think everybody's a watchdog. I don't like the term influencer either, and I throw it around myself, so it's contradictory of myself. But again, people call me one. That's fine. I think it's just funny how certain words stick, right? But watchdogs is just a weird one. I think anybody that wants to participate within the hobby is a watchdog, right? Because you should be looking out for yourself and your fellow collectors at the end of the day.
I also don't consider myself an influencer. Some people come up to me and say that. I'm like, nah, just a guy that's showing you my, I guess, the road that I travel.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself an influencer at all, not from day one. Feed the God says, the only time I've ever listened to anyone about buying any cards is simple due to the fact of them pointing me into the direction of a certain set or SSP. I can get that. I stay away from modern anyway. Yep, I hear people saying that. Loving this episode, my guys. Yo, Dan, your perspectives are immaculate. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and ideas tonight.
Thank you.
I've learned just in a short amount of time here, you're a very analytical thinker.
I'm an overthinker as well. So
you and AIH, y'all are it's a step by step in it, and I have an analytical side, so I can appreciate that. And I think what gets lost in the wash is that people think, "Oh man, these people are just talking." No,
yeah, and it's hard. It's hard as well. Like I've tried to fix that in how I present my videos, but it's really hard because I might.
Dan, you're straightforward, man. You're a straightforward guy.
Yeah, I know, but people still sort of miss the message, right? Or they'll basically say I'm doing something from one perspective, and it's pretty clear they're only watching a small portion of the video, and it's sometimes I need to get more to the point. But again, it's hard. You're never going to please everyone, right? So it's more like just stay true to yourself, which again is a bit corny thing to say, but just be open, honest, and then the sort of content speaks for itself. Which I think goes to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it goes to what I said a bit earlier, where I'm a bit fortunate that I haven't had too many people crap on me in my comment section, right? For the most part, it's fairly balanced, and there's people that will disagree with me, but they're sort of pleasant about it all, which is not common for YouTube comment sections. If you check that, you basically see people shitting all over each other. So I'm sort of thankful for that, and hopefully I don't get attacked one day.
Well, I think it's because how you present your information. I watch your shows, and you're coming from a place of direct fact. You're not just pulling stuff out, throwing it against the wall and see, what is this going to do? It's pretty factual stuff. So I believe that's why. And if someone is disagreeing with you, they can at least appreciate in their soul that this guy put in work before he made this video.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Thanks for saying that.
Oh yeah, man. It's very evident to me. Marvel cars and Star Wars cars. What are your thoughts there?
I'm like a big Marvel nerd. I'm a big comic book collector. You can't see, but I've got like 2 filing cabinets filled.
Behind you. Yeah, no, I saw something on your Instagram page.
Yeah, I've got some comics. I think I've got one here actually, which is a Daredevil. I think number 4. Number 4. So I won that recently. So I've always been a big collector, but the Marvel cards themselves, I just have never been able to get into them because they're too expensive. Like I'm not paying that kind of money for those boxes, and those kinds of things here in Australia have always sold really well. So it's been really hard to get into. Same thing with Star Wars. Like I would love to own them. I love, the looks of these new Topps Chrome cards coming out for Star Wars, but it's just too expensive. And I'm the kind of guy that would have, busted, hundreds of boxes if I could. But it's way too expensive. And I don't think it's designed for, true fans, if that makes sense with that in mind.
Let's talk breaking. Did you think that there are breakers who are getting certain product to break that showcases big cards? Like, are these companies tracking, knowing that I'm giving breaker X these cases, and in those are going to be some one-on-ones or something that's going to make people say, wow? You think that's happening?
Yeah. I've said for years that I think it's happening. Like my first thinking of this happened all the way back in 2015, right? I was very into breaking back then. I broke a lot with Cherry Collectibles here in Australia. And I had the thoughts back then, right? Emerging market, maybe they're pushing things here to win new customers over. I think it happens. People say it doesn't. But there's a lot of coincidences that do happen with certain people getting a lot of big cards coming their way. I did a video a few weeks ago where I had multiple breakers reach out to me and tell me that we were never in the realm of possibility of thinking loaded boxes were real, but we now think it's happening from Fanatics based on product we're getting. So you've got breakers themselves starting to think like that. So, it makes sense for it to happen. And I talked to this in my video too, where you've got, Fanatics Live. They're going to sign exclusive breakers to that platform. So I'm an auditor, right? So this is where my mind goes.
Mm-hmm.
So you got breakers exclusively going on Fanatics Live. Fanatics want more people breaking on their platform. So they're going to want to send maybe good boxes to those guys to try and get more stuff happening. And the incentive is a lot more revenue, right? Because not only are they selling the box to that breaker, but they're also making a commission off every single sale on that platform as well, because they own it. So they can sort of now double dip off literally one box that they could only get one source of revenue from before. So when you look at it through that lens, there's, we refer to it as a risk of fraud in my line of work. And that's where, you'd be targeting as an auditor, because that's where, it might even be one manager out at Fanatics doing this sort of stuff, right? But that's where the risk occurs. And that basically means that you often get people trying to make that kind of thing happen, right?
Do you have those who make content, or even people in the hobby in general, reach out to you to learn more about you?
Yeah, like in terms of like giving me information or just wanting to chat to me too?
Both.
Yeah, all the time for both. I sort of pride myself as well on, and again, this sounds a bit corny, but I try and reply to literally every single comment on my videos. So if you go to my YouTube, you'll see there's no outstanding comments or anything like that in my YouTube studio, because I either want to, give somebody a like on their post and know that I've read what they've done, or I'll give them a response in the comments as well. So, I'm open to that communication. I want to chat to people. My DMs are open on Instagram. It can take me a while to reply because I do get quite a lot. But I'll get to you eventually. And I sort of urge people to reach out and chat to me.
Dexwell says, thank you, Dan, for exposing Justin Gamble. What are your thoughts on Justin Gamble?
So I did a video on him today. I'm not sure if you saw it. He's basically got some repacks that are filled with like crap cards is what it looks like. Very low value cards in $1,000 boxes and all that sort of stuff. Like I don't hate the guy. I don't know him personally or anything like that. But me putting out that video is more like, this looks very suspect. What are you doing? It looks like you're scamming customers. I just think we need a shift in narrative to what these guys are doing. He might be doing everything above board, but where these sort of content creators let themselves down is they're not overly transparent, right? He doesn't have a checklist for that repack. So he might be thinking he's doing things the right way, but when you read his comments, people are upset with him. So it's like, put out a checklist and then everybody's sort of happy, right? So I don't hate anyone, right? I want to make that clear. Some people think that I'm a hater and all that sort of stuff, but it's more like I'm putting out this information just because I want people to be educated. And then these people that are putting out content can maybe learn a thing or two as well. And the same goes for me, right? I'm open to criticism and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not speaking on Justin Gamble. I've met him, talked to him. But just in general, do you think the seeking some kind of creating some kind of money revenue stream or making money out of this, that's the best way I can say it, do you think that may lead some people down a certain road that the other people will question?
Yep, 100%. And I think we see it a lot, and it happens a lot with young men in this space, unfortunately. And I think that maybe speaks to some, issues within society as well, where maybe these guys are feeling a little bit lost. All of a sudden they get a platform, they've got a lot of people following them, people look up to them. It's a hard thing to manage, especially if you don't have a whole lot of life experience, right? So I don't sort of begrudge anyone for, falling down that path of temptation and all that sort of stuff to try and scam people. But it's just weird how it happens, and there's no need for these guys to do that, right? He's got a huge Discord, and I'm not saying he's a terrible person or anything, but he's got a huge Discord that people pay him $17 a month. I think he has 400 or 500 people in that Discord. That's like 80 grand a year, right? You've got that source of revenue coming in. You've got the fact that people like you. There's things you could be doing better, right? And some of these guys, and not him specifically, well, not him at all actually, but some of these guys have those same opportunities, but then they still want to try and scam, people and take that one step further in terms of greed and all that sort of stuff. You saw it with the whole card porn situation, right? Where this guy had a ridiculous following. He was making a lot of money. yet he still felt the need to try and scam people and take it that one step further, right? It's just weird how, and like people aren't just happy with what they have; they always want that little bit more.
So that's almost human nature.
Yeah.
So
Which is
Dan,
weird.
go ahead. You said it's
No,
weird.
I was just gonna say it's weird how it happens. I don't quite understand it, and it's hard to judge someone unless you're in their shoes. But
True.
like I said, these guys are getting platforms that they've maybe not got the life experience to, understand the impact of their words, understand the pressure, all that sort of thing. So it is what it is.
It's interesting. When we first started, even now, less now. I think more people know us, probably know what we're about. A lot of people will come up to me in person and ask me, "So, what's your next steps? How are you gonna make money out of this?" That'd be a question, just straight up, face to face. And I would always ask, "What do you mean? Like, what are you getting at?" And I would never really get. I think they're thinking something that they don't want to articulate. They don't want. They don't really want to say. But we started our channel for several different purposes to showcase men, women, children in a hobby of all different races and creeds. I also wanted to show what steps I make and what strategies I go through to make decisions on what to buy. And I've never been a person, Dan, to follow what other people are doing. And so some people may look at, man, FD, what is FD buying right now? I do my own, I'll tell you this. I've said this before to people. There's one person that taught me how to look at sports and analyze it. It was my father. My father taught me how to sit down, look at a football game, look at a baseball game, look at a boxing match. My brother was also a professional boxer. What are some things you can look at in the development of an athlete? Yep. I think right now we're in a microwave age where we think a guy, now LeBron probably kicked us off, where a guy comes out of high school, he averages 20 points a game forever. There's no development. There's no ramp up. Nobody knows that Dennis Rodman was backing up John Sally coming off the bench for a long time. He didn't lead the NBA in rebounding until he was 30 to 37, did it 7 years in a row, but he was in his 30s. There are many different players and nobody thinks about how those players actually develop. Scottie Pippen came in very light in the butt, had to develop himself physically, became a different player. I think his rookie year, he averaged 9 points a game. Nobody really thinks about that today. People think about what's the instant stuff that's
they want that instant gratification, that instant return.
And so the hobby kind of follows that. Well, we jump on players and we're talking about what they're going to do. And we don't know about, injuries do occur.
Yeah.
There was a guy named Brandon Roy, used to play with the Portland Trailblazers. Excellent player, was developing well, got chronic knee injuries, had to retire. These things occur. It's going to keep occurring. So we talk about quarterbacks in the NFL, different things like that. People go out and buy cars thinking this person is just going to be great forever, or because they were a high draft pick, that's someone else's assessment. It's not your own. That other person assess who you don't know their name or what their background is. They assess this player a certain way, so they drafted them that way. And so we think, oh man, this player is going to be the bomb because they were second overall in the draft. Well, there's a Tom Brady sitting out there.
Exactly. It's wild how that mindset goes, right? And it doesn't even have to be injuries, right? Because you look at the whole John Morant situation. That
off the field.
Again, exactly. Like anything can happen. It's just weird how over leveraged people get. But prospecting has sort of always been around. I remember breaking heavily, like I said, in 2014, 15, and I'd hit Giannis in a Select 2013-14 is one of my all-time favorite sets. It was the first hobby box that I got into for basketball. And I'd hit Giannis and people would laugh at me. Who's this idiot you've got, right? And they're all chasing Victor Oladipo and all that sort of stuff. And it's now. It's
just like when Steph came out. Everybody was talking about Blake Griffin.
Yep.
Nobody cares about Steph.
Yep. So it's just weird how things work. And I think there's a lot of people that have maybe stopped looking at it through the lens of the sport itself, right? Collecting cards, you're not just a sports fan, right? Anymore. You could just be a person collecting cards for the sake of it or trying to make money off it. And that, added dimension is perfectly fine. People can do whatever they want. I'm all for that. And I like the fact that we have so many people in the hobby these days because it makes it a lot more fun. It means it gets taken seriously by big business. It means we get cool offerings as customers.
Yeah.
But that is skewing the lens a little bit where it's guys, you're paying all this money for somebody that's probably not even going to be better than a Hall of Fame whose cards are already selling for less.
Well, just like this past year, this past summer, USA team was playing. A lot of people amped up, right? And I made a statement to someone. Everybody's trying to buy Austin Reeves and Ant-Man and this, that, and the other. And they're saying, oh, man, these players are going to be great. Look what they're doing with the USA team. But then I asked them a question. There are cards from the 92 Dream Team that nobody wants.
Yep.
And these guys are legends.
Yep. Yeah, that always did my head in. Like, we bought our house in 2017 and I sold a lot of my collection back then. But I had so many on-card autos of Hall of Famers and across all sports and some really cool match-worn stuff. And I sold it because I needed to pay for my mortgage. But at the time, that stuff was cheap. It was like $20, $30 Australian for a card that is now worth a heck of a ton more. But even back then, people didn't want them. So it's like always been around, right? But it's just amplified even worse these days.
Yes, it is. Greed, pure and simple. It's like when LiAngelo Ball stole those sunglasses. He had the money. It's got to be the thrill. Yeah, I thought when I heard that story, I don't know him. Don't really know the family, but I just thought he went somewhere and did something that he thought was funny. And it turned out not to be funny.
Yeah. Was this? I don't remember the story. Is this the thing that happened? Was it overseas?
Yeah, it was overseas. He went to a store, picked up some sunglasses, walked out.
Yeah.
Instantaneously, there's an investigation. He's off the team. Then tried to do some workouts with Charlotte, I guess because his brother was there. That didn't work out. So now he's out of basketball. He's having a child. I think he's moving on with his life. But it's like, what are you doing? You're at UCLA, man. What are you doing?
It's just weird. Like I was thinking this the other week actually, where you look at sport in general across the world, and I feel like there's a lack of competitiveness in the current age compared to what we saw in the last 15, 20 plus years. And it's instances like that of people doing dumb things like that, or going out and not taking things seriously, or getting paid so much money so early. It just leads to all these things that you wouldn't have seen happen, back in the day. And if that stuff did happen back in the day, and the senior players would have taken the kids around the back of the building and clipped them behind the ears, right? They wouldn't have got away with it. But it sort of seems to happen all the time now. Like every other month there's a story of something like that. So,
well, my personal thoughts is just, how do people take feedback?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, and I don't consider myself that old. I would go visit my grandmother. Everybody around you is going to give you some feedback. You go to church with her. If somebody see you doing something that you shouldn't be doing, that person's going to talk to you. Then that person's going to walk you over to her. She's going to talk to you with that person. And then my grandma's going to get on the phone, talk to my parents. They're going to talk to you. And it was the same way in Chicago when I was growing up. You constantly got feedback. I could be doing well in school. My coach is going to give me feedback on the football field. And we had coaches that were right up in your face, yelling at you. But then I think I posted a clip from an Alabama player last weekend when Nick Saban's yelling at him about something. And he said, as the player, I thought this was great for this generation. If you can dissect the anger or the passion really that the coach has, and they're fired up. If you can connect that away from what are they actually telling you now?
Yeah.
What are they saying? If you can listen to what they're saying and stay the course on that, then you're coachable. And so one thing I go through all the time, which I don't think a lot of people respect, is when I look at a player and I want to start buying a card, and I'll do a bunch of research. I'm looking at post-game interviews. I'm looking at how they address the press in practice, how they getting coached on the court. Because somebody may step up as a senior player on the team or a coach and yell something at you from the sideline. How you taking that information? At the end of the day, are you coachable? And if you're not coachable, then I don't see much.
Yep.
And so I look at a person like LaMelo Ball. There's some people that I think, is that player really coach? Zion, I thought that. Even before all this other stuff, and people who really know me, who have talked to me, know, before all this other stuff even happened, I ask questions about, is that player coachable?
Yep.
And if they're not, I don't get excited.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, like, the post-game interview is something that I pay a lot of attention to as well. Yeah. Or even like, so Parramatta Eels, I'm a season ticket holder, I have been for 20 years. Like, after the game, that's what, like, if the team loses, that's one of the things I watch out on the field is to how they react to that loss. And a lot of these days the players are friends with each other on opposing teams, so you'll see them have a bit of a giggle with each other, but it's that killer mentality that you sort of look for, right? And it doesn't seem to be too common these days, and the players that do have it, stand out really well, right?
Just like Cam Newton's in the Super Bowl, when he went to the post-game interview and did not want to answer those questions, the guy even walked away. Look at the rest of his career after that. It never works. I know people may think that it doesn't really work that way.
Yep. Or if it does work, it's the exception, not the
That's right,
not the norm. Yep.
Machado says, Dan, love your recent video on flawless soccer. Need more videos like that. Triple fire. Thoughts on soccer card market? Can it rise with the rest of the main sports? And before you answer that, I want to tag on to what Machado said. People, I know in here in LA and other places always say, well, the soccer market is going to take off. More people in America are going to watch it. So with Machado's question here of the soccer market, what do you think of it? Would there be a rise? I'm doubling down on that. Like, you think more people in America are going to watch soccer?
It's interesting. Like, maybe the 2026 World Cup will get that to happen, but I don't know. Like, so here in Australia and other markets, like, we had a lot of expats, like I said, come from Europe post World War II. So it's sort of still ingrained in our culture. I'm not sure if that's like that in the States, which is going to be the hard thing to get people to buy into. Maybe the 2026 World Cup can do that. But the thing that I think is really weird about the soccer card market is that when you think about everything wrong with sports cards today, soccer has that times 10, times 100, because prospecting is significantly more insane because people don't understand the players they're buying. And, you look at the markets around the world or different leagues, it's so much more competition. It's really hard to be a standout player, yet they prospect on weird things. I think things are overpriced. Like, you can't see it, but some of the flawless cards that I have there are of like genuine greats of the game, and it cost me like $600 USD. And this is a match worn piece of the jersey on card auto. The guys hardly got anything like that out in the market. They only did 1 year of flawless. Yet something like that is worth 600, but then you've got people paying, prospects for 10 times that amount of money, right? And it's just really weird because, like I said, for soccer, to be a standout player in that sport is so much more difficult than anything else, in my opinion, because there is so much more competition. And it's not just the fact that there's so many leagues, it's the fact that you go to Brazil and that's what kids are playing, on the streets sort of thing, right? Similar to like rugby, right? New Zealand is the greatest team ever, right? Very small nation, fantastic team. And it's because the kids are playing that, that are poor, right? It's basically all they have. So when they become professionals, that takes them to the next level. And that's sort of happening all around the world with soccer, which is why the whole prospecting piece and, the whole thing is just weird, right? You've got these guys that come from nothing that become global superstars in probably the most competitive sport in the world, and they still stand out, and you're not paying money for that card. It's like, guys, it's so weird. It's so rare, unique. You're not going to find things like that again, in my opinion.
That's true. You have any Pele stuff in your collection?
No, I don't, because I think it's too expensive, unfortunately. Like, even back in the day when I wanted it, it was too expensive. So here's an interesting one. Like, he is probably the greatest player of all time, but he was already, like, in my opinion, overpriced like 5-10 plus years ago.
I agree.
The American collectors, if you were to talk about soccer players, it would be Pele and Maradona, right? They'd be the two they would have picked. So those were already priced out, unfortunately. But there's plenty of players in the top 10 of all time that have things that are so affordable. It's crazy. So if you're a fan of the sport, go chase that stuff. Now, again, don't come at me if they tank in price. But for me, it's like to own an on-card auto of an Italian legend. Andrea Pirlo is the player, one of the greatest players of all time. To have a piece of a match-worn jersey in there, which is so rare, so unique, that is just really cool to own. That's the cool stuff. As a fan, you can sit back and say, okay, I'm going to try and find which match that jersey's from. And I did that. It's from a friendly in 2013. So now I can go ahead and watch that game and just take my fun of collecting to that next level, right?
I don't own any Pele for the same reason. I've come close several times to purchase something, never did that.
He's also signed, so much before he passed.
Yeah. And that's a lot of athletes. There are a lot of athletes that before they passed away, I can think of Ted Williams and Bill Russell. Two people. Bill Russell, at one point when he played ball, wouldn't sign an autograph. He wanted to talk to you, shake your hand, learn about your family. He thought autograph signing was dumb, he said. It was a disconnect between humanity. And then, later in life, I think he realized the market values that he could command. He was signing in person in Boston through like a sports market agent that he knew. And then later he started signing through Signing Sports and stuff like that. I think they started to realize, hey, I'm getting older. This is a great way of collecting revenue. And then we know about like people like Pete Rose and Shaq, who have signed thousands upon thousands of autographs.
Yeah.
I would look at Joe Montana. Joe Montana used to be a rare guy. Didn't sign a lot. Now he's signing every day of the week.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, because I want a Bill Russell on-card auto would be a dream thing for me to own. But that's why I'm quite targeted with what I want, right? So it'd be something like maybe a first year flawless or eminence. Now, again, that's going to be incredibly expensive, which is why I don't own one, but that's what I'm working towards, right? Because so many of these guys sign so many different things. I want to be very targeted
I agree.
with what I buy, right? I want it to have that deeper meaning.
I would recommend to anyone, and I've even learned this over time, just doing research, because I try to do research on stuff almost every single day of the week. The more you get up into higher dollar amount cards, being very selective about what you're going to purchase and why means a lot, because when it gets down to maybe reselling that or just having, if you say, hey, FD, I just want to have it in my collection. When you're spending 5,000 plus on something, I just want something that's very rare, hard to find. And you can still find some stuff at a reasonable price, but it's just about the rarity of it.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is because you're looking at it through the lens of being a sports fan, you know, you're very targeted with what you're buying, which means that, you know, if you ever do want to sell, there's going to be people wanting the same thing for the same reasons. I did a video recently about, or a few months ago, about Prism cards, right? And how it's been around for 10 years now, and there's a gold in every single set, right, for a player. So if you want someone like LeBron, he has, you know, over 130 gold cards now from Prism. So it's like, okay, are they all going to be worth the same amount of money? No, they're not. So which ones are going to be worth more than others? And for me as a fan, it's going to be, okay, chasing championship winning seasons, chasing, you know, a unique image on the card, all that sort of stuff, right? And that's the thing that people need to think through when they're going to spend money, because they're going to print these things to death, right? By the time this player's career's over, like someone like LeBron playing for over 20 years now, you know, the cards add up.
They do. You're absolutely right, sir. Hey, Monty, roll tide. Yeah, we were talking about Alabama. Monty's a huge Alabama fan. Baseball card conundrum says, if a coach ain't talking to you, he has forgotten about you. I've been on teams. I'm going to double down on that. If you ever on a team or want to be on a team, if that coach is not kind of in your butt or really caring about what you're doing, you probably just run around with a helmet on or
yeah, exactly. You make the coach want to talk to you, right? I was going to say this earlier, right, when you were having your comment on it. In one of the rugby teams over here, he got sacked. He got fired because he sort of had poor communication with one of the players, and one of the players he dropped down to reserve grade. We have two tiers. I'm not sure how it works of all the US sports, but basically not in the first team. You're playing for the reserves on a week-to-week basis, and he dropped this guy and didn't communicate why. And this player complained to the board, right? And this coach ended up getting sacked or fired, I should say. Sacked is an Aussie word.
I know what you meant.
And in my mind, right, if I'm that player, I'm going to be like, well, this guy's not talking to me. I'm going to work my ass off to get back into there, right? Because it's that old school, you know, mentality. But these days, players are not thinking like that.
It's not today.
So this is wild.
Well, you know, I used to play ball, and I remember one time I was like a redshirt freshman, so I'm basically on the second team, and I used to stand right next to the coach and ask him, you want me to go in? I was just asking this question the entire game.
Yeah, you want to be known, right?
Yeah, you want me to go in? And he said at one point, when I want you to go in, I'll tell you. And I was like, okay, but I'll be sitting right here until you tell me.
Yeah.
So I'm not, and I've noticed, like I watched Colorado play the last couple of weeks, and they're transitioning different defenses, coverages based upon the offense, or they're going with special teams, and they're looking for guys. Like, where's that guy at? This guy's over here sitting on the bench. Yeah, it's none of that. None of that. I remember one time I was telling a friend the other day, we had this, and we spent a whole practice converting from one defensive coverage to another, from offense to defense, if it was third down, going to special teams, back to offense, back to defense. We ran this. So you're running to the middle of the field, getting in position. There's no huddle. They wanted to see if you knew where you're supposed to be at. Then you're running back off the field. So you're running 45 yards a clip, top speed, get there, line up, get off the field. And they're clocking you.
Yeah.
And so after that, I think it drilled in everybody's head, because now we just went through a conditioning that we didn't need to go through if you really knew your business, that we don't want to go through that again.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Colorado's probably doing something like that right now. Is there a sport out there that will grow the next 5 years that we may not have expected, or will the main sports stay on top? You know.
I don't think so. I think like soccer would be the only one, but again, that's sort of expected to grow. But it's sort of weird. Like one of the things I talked to as well, similar to what I said about, you know, chasing cards from championship winning seasons, right? Is buying people. The thing that people need to remember is that behind every card purchase, there's some sort of cultural relevance behind it, right? You're buying the card for a reason, right? And the old school collectors bought what they did for a reason. So if you're expecting things to all of a sudden change overnight in terms of cultural relevance for that sport, it's not going to happen. And by that, I mean, you know, you look at soccer, one of the things that people wanted to make a play on was goalkeepers, but goalkeepers haven't ever been appreciated as much as attacking players, right? The same thing with baseball, where I saw some people saying, well, pitchers are undervalued, which might be the case, but, you know, people have always preferred hitters over pitchers, right? So you're not going to all of a sudden change a sentiment that's been part of that sport since its inception.
It's been quarterbacks.
Exactly. And you're not all of a sudden going to change that. Like, yeah, maybe more people will start to respect other things and place value on those cards, but chances are the people that are buying those cards are thinking the same way that you are. And, you know, there's a reason why things were valued or appreciated the way they were, you know, over the course of the whole time that sport's been played.
There's a question from Lexor. As a toy guy, your thoughts on graded toys?
I don't have any, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a gimmick. I can appreciate people wanting it for their shelves and all that sort of stuff. But from my perspective, it's like, well, if you want it, get it, but just don't overpay for it.
Yeah, we definitely don't have enough historical data to see where are those markets going.
Yeah, and how genuine some of the purchases are and all that sort of stuff.
That's right. Machado, another question. But do you see more international players coming to the MLS?
You know, I think like having Messi come now was good. But the problem is it's sort of trickled in. Like you had Beckham, you had Lampard go there, you had Pirlo, you had Thierry Henry go there for a little bit, Tim Cahill, Zlatan there as well. Like it sort of happens a bit too late in their careers. I think like the MLS really should look to invest and try and get a few, like similar to what's happening in the Saudi Arabia League, where they've basically bought everyone. Like that's kind of hard money to compete with, but it's something that would be, you know, interesting long term. The downside is these guys are making so much money in their leagues, in their home countries. It's hard to compete with that, irrespective of how appealing it would be to be a famous athlete, you know, living and working in the US.
Brendan says, as far as I know, none of the grading companies authenticate patches. They don't.
Yeah, they don't.
No, they go off the whatever the manufacturer said that card is. But Brendan also has a question. Panini could lie to us and say there's a game use patch. Who would know if they did or did not?
Yeah, you're never going to know, unfortunately. Like even their older cards where they used to tell you where the jersey was from. Okay, you could research it and find it, and you might find it, but how do you know it's the actual one? How do you know they've not taken one and then made, you know, multiple copies of that one or all that sort of stuff? So it's interesting. Futera is a trading card manufacturer. I'm not sure where they're located. They might be here in Australia, but they do a lot of international sets.
Okay.
And for their soccer releases, as an example, they'll have a code on the back of the card. You scan it on their website, and it'll show you not just which jersey your patch came from, but it'll tell you exactly where on the jersey it was cut from. They basically take an image and all the pieces that were cut off and which cards they've gone into. That stuff is, you know, insane. That's what Fanatics should be doing. They have the opportunity.
What's the name of this company then?
Futera, Futera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put that up.
So they do a lot of soccer stuff. It's cool. It's like they do some things here for the rugby league cards as well. They do a really cool 1-of-1 where so they only do the 1-of-1 for the Aussie sets, but they'll make it. It's like gold bordered. It's really nice to look at. I'll send you some of the pictures.
Please do. Please do. Yeah, I think that's an area where Fanatics could really change the game.
Yeah, it adds so much more value to collecting. Like it's such a cooler thing to say. Well, this jersey LeBron scored, you know, a triple double in, right?
And don't let that be the playoffs. Don't let that be the finals.
Yep.
Don't let there be a championship clinching game.
Yep.
Game changer. Dan, I want to tell you, man, I've learned a lot about you today.
Thank you.
I
appreciate
you being here, your insight. I appreciate your analytical approach to things. I think it's the hobby needs more of that. And I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. I'm glad the AIH is doing what he's doing. And everybody else out there that takes an analytical approach. I try to take an analytical approach to what I'm doing and how I look at things that I see presented, and I see something going on. Like even before the 1-on-1 duplicate thing going on, I used to always ask the question, what do companies do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot they can do, to be honest. But
but what are they actually doing right now?
Yeah, exactly. Then I don't think they're doing anything, and I think it's painfully obvious they're not doing anything. It goes to issues that I've seen too, where you've got wrong stickers going on the wrong cards. Somebody sent me a photo today of speaking of Alexander Volkanovski, the UFC fighter. A 1-of-1 was hit, and it had another fighter's auto sticker on there, sticker auto on there, and it's like, well, how does that mistake happen, right? And one of the things I've talked to is how hard would it be as a Panini or a Topps to have a database that your people can reference when they're sticking autos on there and say, okay, this is Alexander Volkanovski's auto. It doesn't match what I'm sticking on here. What am I doing, right? Stuff like that. Same thing with wrong patches going on wrong cards. You can do the same sort of thing.
Or have a position called the VP of Authenticity.
Yeah.
Well, that person, you got this training going on. You got this mechanism where you can look and see what is what. But that person is also maybe bringing in some people that are pretty fluent in autographs.
Yep.
And kind of understand strokes and what it looks like. And
they could fix it if they wanted to. Like, I think Fanatics is going to be better placed than anybody to fix it because they literally own the whole value chain. So whether it happens or not is another thing. But I didn't get to mention earlier, like, they're looking at going listed, right? They want to have an IPO. They want to be listed on the stock exchange. That exposes them to auditors like me. They're going to be mandated to do certain things. And a lot of these processes will be questioned. And they'll have to change their processes internally to uplift and be better. And they're not going to get away with the crap that we've seen. So,
Brendan said live stream excellence. This has been a great conversation. I knew it would be. I knew it would be a great conversation. We got to have you back, too, next 6 months or so. Have you back?
More than happy to. So I get to apologize for trying to get this thing locked in. The time zones make it so difficult. And like I said, it falls right in the middle of my workday. So I do apologize for taking some time. But I'm more than happy. I love the chat. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, nobody got to add you to the intro there.
Yes, I'm more than happy to.
So, Dan, who are you rolling with?
I'm rolling with the man, the myth, the legend himself, FD.
Brother, I appreciate you, man. We've been doing What's the Play. We've been doing podcasts for a while. This is like at the top of my list of people that I've talked to. That's
really kind of
we talk about top 5, top 10. This is probably top 5 conversation right here.
I really appreciate you saying that.
And people who know me, I just want you to know, people that know me, I don't make it up, man. This has been real insightful. I respect the work that you do, the content that you put out. I generally want to know what you thought about certain things that I put out there. That's why I asked the question. Every question I ask you, I've thought over time. If I get this guy on, I'm going to ask him these questions. And I appreciate your genuine answers, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
If I see a Pele out there reasonably priced, bro, I might hit you up.
Yeah, hit me up for sure. It's like I said, I really want one, but they're so expensive.
They are. He was a great player. They are. Imani said, great show. Appreciate you, Imani, for being here. Brendan said, outstanding, great show, gentlemen. Brother Dan, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good evening. Tell your family we said hello.
You too.
I follow your story, bro. I know a lot of stuff about you. And before I get people on here, I try to do my research and understand them. So I appreciate you, man. If you ever get any hate from anybody, there are a bunch of people in this audience here that watch you and appreciate what you do, bro.
Thank you. Like I said, I try and keep things balanced and fair. I want, I genuinely care about people, right? And I want to make sure people don't get scammed, taken advantage of. I want to educate, and I'm glad to see that's coming across in my content. And like I said, I've made some mistakes along the way, but I hope to try and do a bit better and keep having fun.
Keep having fun with it, brother. My man, Dan, the card man. I appreciate you, dog. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Keep rolling, baby.